um, which recruits in the retirement home includes those living in their apartments and condominiums, nursing care. If, let's say, for example, there's a husband and wife living there, and the husband is ill,
Mm.
his wife can look after him if she has a little help. There's nursing available. They can also look after people in their own apartments who have a little bit of memory loss
Mm.
because they have the faculty to provide the pills that they need. If the person would forget their pills, the nurses will provide the pills. And finally, there's an area, a smaller area, that is entirely nursing care, so that if somebody needs 24-hour care, they get it there. It's not cheap, it's expensive, but somebody can be looked after for the full 24 hours.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And they have on site there, they have a dining room. So included in your rent is 15 meals a month. So it's expected that you go down to the dining room and have perhaps the evening meal where there's a social contact with other people. And if you want to pay for the other 15 days of the month, you can pay for them. But built into your rent is 15. They also have physiotherapy offered there.
Mm.
They are building a new exercise room. They have a small movie theater. They have a small coffee shop. So in the middle of the day, if you want to invite somebody in for coffee, they have a little coffee shop there. They have a small store for small supplies, like built right into the building.
Mm.
For those who are very able, they have a parking garage. So if you're quite able to still drive a car, you can take your car there as well.
Okay, okay. And I think you've written some books.
Do I read some books?
You wrote some books.
Oh, I've really only written two books.
Ah,
What?
well, don't say only, because I mean it takes effort.
Okay,
Like
that's right.
people to put words together, you know.
Okay.
So I
So
mean, will you tell us the titles of the books and maybe give us a short summary?
yeah, well, the first book I wrote was when I was working. I worked for many years at St. Michael's Hospital, and when you start off young, you hear the stories of the older doctors. So at lunchtime, there were two or three of the doctors that were wonderful storytellers. You see, they would tell these stories about the hospital in the old days, and I thought they should be captured.
Mm.
Um, uh, so I began to, just on my own, write some of them down, just so I wouldn't lose the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that there was a period. Do you know what I mean by an internship? It's when you freshly graduate from medical
Okay.
school,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you go to a hospital and you're supervised.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You do a lot, but you're supervised, and somebody will check on your work. So
It's
you
sort of
learn
internship.
that, and it's a very exciting several years in your life because you're doing what you finally want to do,
Mm.
and it's very intense because you're there all the time, every day.
Mm.
So I wanted to capture these stories as well about what it was like to be an intern. So Adewale, you know, because you write a little bit, that I tried to pull these into a book. So it's entitled "On Call in the Heart of the City," and it's the life of being an intern at St. Michael's Hospital over the past 100 years, really.
Okay.
So what I found, though, much to my surprise, that when you try to write down somebody who tells a story, it's never as funny as it
Mm.
was when the person is telling it,
Mm.
because you realize that how the body position and gestures and pauses and all that
Mm.
make a story funny.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just write it out, it's not nearly so funny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have to work on some literary method to make it funny still.
That's true. That's true.
Then I think I told you probably that I belong to a small medical historical club, and we finished 100 years in 2018. We'd had uh, over 500 meetings, and
Is that
so
are you
we
referring
published.
to All in the Family doctors?
In my work years, I was a general internist. I specialized in internal medicine.
Okay, okay, okay. By the way, did you write an article? I don't know. Let me see. Okay. I want to know if you are the one that wrote this. My grandfather's criminal past. Did you write it?
You have to look at me and say that again.
Okay. This is written by Peter Kopplin in 2010. I think in the Global Mail.
What's it called?
My grandfather's criminal past.
Oh yes, yeah. How did you find that?
I mean, it's my job to do my.
Well, Adewale, that story, if you've read that story, and when growing up, my grandmother, my father, and my grandmother never referred to what would be my grandfather and my father's father. There never any mention, as though they had taken them right out of his life. So why was this? Why was this? Somebody then a distant aunt told me, oh yes, he was put in jail for drinking too much alcohol.
Mm.
So I said I want to find the story. So first of all, I had to find where he died, and so using the internet, I found that he died in a hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I looked, and I was able to get the death certificate. The death certificate said he'd fractured his hip, and then he died from heart disease and heart failure.
Mm.
And then I said, well, I'll get more information about him from the funeral home. And then I realized if I looked at the death certificate, there was no funeral home. He was taken to the University of Minnesota.
Mm.
So there's a long tradition in Canada and in North America for medical schools, for bodies to study, for the students to study anatomy on, are people who have died without any relatives, or they're derelicts. They have no relatives. So I realized that the fact that the funeral home was the University of Minnesota. He'd been taken to the University of Minnesota to be a cadaver for the medical students there. And I realized, because of the era where I went to medical school between 1957 and 1963, and he died in 1956, he would have been if he had died in Toronto, I would have been dissecting my own grandfather. And then one time when I was in Saskatchewan, I went to the archives to see if I could find the trial of the setting of the fires. And so I read the trial data. Now, in modern times, there was not enough evidence to incriminate him.
Okay, okay.
But he went to jail nevertheless.
Now, when will you retire? I mean, as in fully retire.
Where would I?
When are you going to retire fully?
I still don't understand.
When are you going to retire, be in full retirement?
Yeah, when you Google.
You're still working part-time, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So when are you saying, okay, I'm saying goodbye to the practice?
Oh, in June, July 1st is a Monday, right?
Okay.
I attend Christie Gardens Monday and Thursday. I'm going to finish June 30th. That's a Sunday. 29th is a Saturday. 28th is a Friday. So on the 27th of June will be my last day.
Okay, let's go so. So, you've had a lot of happy moments, right? But then, which of the days can you say is your happiest day so far?
Which is my happiest day?
Yep.
So far? Well, you have to always say a number of happy days. You see,
Sure, sure. I know.
one happy day, of course, was when you graduate from medical school,
Okay.
because there's a lot of work going. It's not a lot of intelligent work always. There's a lot of just brunt work, bulk work.
Especially do this.
So when we graduated in May of 1963, that was a happy day.
Mm.
Happy day for my mother, probably, and my brother and sister were there as well.
Okay. Okay.
So it's always a happy day when your children are born, and I have two boys, so I can remember both times.
Mm.
They're happy days.
Mm.
So you remember your marriage day. I can still remember. I have had two marriages. My first marriage fell apart,
Okay.
but I can still remember the wedding day, and I can still remember the wedding day
Mm.
for the second marriage. So they're happy days as well.
Okay. Can I ask what your most embarrassing moment has been?
One of my most embarrassing moments.
Yep.
I can tell you what
Okay.
one of my most embarrassing moments was in medical grand rounds. That's a sort of a weekly performance at the hospital, where usually a case is presented, and then it's discussed at great length as to how the patient should be treated, what were the physical signs that help the diagnosis. And I had presented this case, and my boss at that time, he asked me to examine. He asked me to examine a couple of things in the legs, the muscle strength in the legs, and he said examine the hip flexor. So I examined the leg and showed him where the weakness was, and then he said examine the knee flexors. And then instead of examining the knee flexors, I examined the hip flexors. And he recognized I'd done so. He was very gentle, and he said, no. He thought I didn't hear, so he said, no, examine the knee flexors. And I had a little bit of a brain cramp, and I examined the hip flexors again. And so he tried again and said, no, just the knee flexors. And again, I examined the hip flexors. Now, this you have to imagine in front of 100 and 120 people. And finally, he just stopped. And I realized afterwards how stupid I had been.
Now, considering your age, right? May I ask, what is your secret?
What secret?
Yeah.
You know what the famous Robert Service said, the poet in Canada, when he reached 95 or something? He said his secret was eating a potato every day, and one potato every day. I have no secret. My health is quite good, Adewale. You're right. There's nothing special that I do. I've always played a little sport in my time all along. I can't play much now, but all along, and I've never smoked, so that's something that helps drags your health down.
Yeah.
But I think probably you're lucky by the parents and grandparents you have. There's some genetic component to it.
Okay.
I don't want to say it's luck, but it's more genetics, I think.
Okay. So, I mean, what will you say to people just coming up, maybe teenagers and all those things? What will you advise them to do?
That's a good question, but a tough one to answer. I would. So what I'll say to you, Adewale, is that the beauty of being a doctor and studying medicine is that there's always something new to learn. Always. And if you're interested in that and learning something new, there's always an excitement to that. So I suppose I would advocate to a teenager that you find a career path in which you're interested and where there's always something new to learn.
Now, okay, since you're a doctor, you Of course, if you are not willing to answer any question, you are free not to. What do you think about abortion?
Well, see, my position is very conservative on abortion, really. Nobody likes abortion. Nobody, actually. Nobody wants it to happen. But I guess philosophically, I've always seen that this is a destruction of a life. The moment the baby begins to develop, it's a human being. And so I've always been against abortion. Fortunately, I'm not in a specialty where I'd have to do it or be forced to do it. But I I've always been against abortion.
Mm, mm. But what about in some peculiar cases? Peculiar cases like armed robbers entering the house and maybe having intimate session with the lady or something, and the lady getting pregnant, or maybe a lady getting kidnapped, and the kidnappers having sex with her, all those things.
Yeah. I'm here. You're thinking if the diagnosis of some disease is made pre-birth, is that right?
Okay.
Yeah. I'd have to soften that. I've seen people what you can, you're familiar with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess some people would say that if they had the amniotic fluid analyzed and it showed a Down's baby, they would have an abortion. But I've seen many Down's children are very lovable, actually. And I've seen some very successful Downs, a lot of successful Downs children grow up and do well. I would have more trouble, I think, where I would be more challenged, I suppose, if somebody got pregnant through a rape or something like that. That would give me more difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I might soften my stand there, I suppose.
Now, you are a Christian. I don't know. What will you say about judging others? Judging others.
Yeah.
I mean, most people like to judge your own situation and all those things. But I mean, as a Christian, I'm aware that the Bible says that we should not judge others. So,
yeah, we all do it, either subconsciously or consciously, and don't express it. We all draw conclusions and judge. And as you get older, of course, you become less judgmental in some regards because you realize you've done things that other people judge harshly. So the best thing I've read recently and seen, somebody said revenge. Revenge, is in us all. If we see something done, we seek revenge. We may not do it. It's the feelings are okay inwardly, but as a policy, they're not correct. That makes sense. So we all judge inwardly, but it would have to be very questionable about how we would judge in terms of policy if we would make it. So I would be very cautious in my own mind about how would if somebody disagree. Well, many people I know disagree with me on the abortion issue, but they would. I wouldn't judge them particularly.
of course.
I would inwardly try to keep that.
Okay. Now let's go into maybe social affairs, politics, or whatever. Now, what do you see any significant difference in Canada's treatment of migrants and other countries?
No, I don't know whether I've fully got that. I
Okay,
see
okay. Like,
in Canada, there's a large immigrant population, right? Have I got that?
yeah, Canada
Yeah,
has a large,
they're very diverse.
Canada has a large immigrant
Yeah,
population, and they are still taking more,
yeah.
right? But
And what do I?
meanwhile, the European countries generally are even trying to send them away.
Yeah. And would you were asking my opinion for this
Yeah,
open
yeah, yeah,
immigration policy? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much for it. I mean, after all, Canada's built on immigrants, right?
Mm,
From the word go, from the word go.
mm-hmm,
And the diversity is interesting. And I do think, though, maybe we have some responsibility to make sure that there's, when the immigrants arrive, they have a proper place to live, that there's an opportunity
mm-hmm,
for living and working,
mm,
that maybe we've let immigrants down on that.
mm,
If they're having to struggle to find a place to live, or if they're
mm,
having to struggle to find decent some work.
mm,
But I'm very much in favor of the immigration policy.
mm, mm. Actually, I think, uh, you know, the number of immigrants coming to Canada
Yeah,
is kind of unexpected on the part of the government.
yes.
The government did not expect the number of immigrants to be so high. So
You,
I wouldn't blame them for not providing enough accommodation. But
no,
at least we are seeing changes. We are seeing changes. At least I think there's some early this year, some were sleeping rough outside and all those things. But with the new policies, I mean, most of them have been mopped up.
yes.
So I believe Canada is more lenient
Hmm.
towards immigrants.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, of course, there's a diversity too in the immigrants. You see, is it fair to say that most of the immigrants nowadays are reasonably well educated?
if they are what?
They're reasonably well educated.
Ah, well, well. Maybe I can talk of the ones from my part of the world.
Yeah.
I believe most of them are educated.
Uh-huh. So you look at our congregation, and you look at the people from
You see,
Nigeria. They're
you go.
all university educated.
That's true. That is true.
You look at uh, the Filipinos, not university educated. Many of them were nurses. So you see,
Mm-hmm. That's
educated that they read well, they write well, and that
yeah.
sort of thing.
That's true. That is true.
Um, and if you look at the Chinese immigration, many of them are well educated.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, my time is almost up, so it's been nice
Okay,
talking to you. I mean,
okay.
at least we were able to make it today.
Yeah, we got connected out a while.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right.
Yeah,
Bye
bye
bye.
bye. Bye.